Hey,
Ta-da!
everybody. We
Hey.
are now live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Awaken Your Relationships. And boy, we got a lot to talk about today because in my personal world, there's a lot of awakening going on in relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
I am Julie Murphy, and I've started this awakening series. Kind of launched off from my book called Awaken Your Wealth because you don't actually manifest money in your world unless you're working on your relationships, your health, and your soul work and your work life, because all of those then result in your wealth. And
Exactly.
so people always think that they can fix the money stuff first, and it's not. You got to actually go and do your work in the other areas of your life. So, and Rita here, want to tell everyone else about what your expertise are?
Sure. Well, I help women who are in toxic relationships. I help them figure out from a body-mind perspective and work with them from like a spiritual perspective and a mental health. And, when you go to therapy, you only kind of get one side, 2:00 on a Tuesday. What's your problem? Let's talk about it. And
Yep.
when women work with me, because I only work with women, is we work with you with in a group setting, one-on-one setting. We work with the body mind tools that get you out of your fight or flight, like in 60 seconds. We work with your emotions. We train you how to negotiate on a high level with people who are sociopaths. I mean, so we work at it from a number of different directions because at my core, I'm a healer. And so I
Right.
help women heal from
Well,
toxic relationships.
pardon me for interrupting, but I want
No?
people to hear loud and clear what you said about therapy. There are so many people in therapy these days, or have had therapy in the past, that, when I went to a symposium with Deepak Chopra years ago, he said that he brought this PhD from some scientist from overseas that said, we now know that if you work in the energetic realm, it's called the holographic layer of the universe,
Yes.
which is how our cell phones work. Our
Yes.
cell phones work this way. They're not.
Yeah, and they're starting, water is the same way. Oh, water's so cool. It holographically holds information around it, and they're using it in medical computer chips. So water really is a great storehouse of information.
Right.
Craziness.
And so it's kind of unpacking what we've known, and
Yes.
saying something that used to take 10 years, 10 years from a psychotherapy perspective. If
Yes.
you work with people who work with this holographic realm, something
Mm-hmm.
that took 10 years can now take 30 seconds.
Takes 30 seconds.
30 seconds. And
When
and
I
when I
figured this
when I
out, I
ask
was blown away.
when I ask people how to like wrap their head around it, think about those of you who are old enough to understand, like, think about the telephone you had in your kitchen with the
That's a good
long cord that
metaphor.
was super stretched out that would wrap all together.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and only one person could be on at a time. And if your dad was expecting a phone
there was one
call,
phone in the
you had to
house.
go to
Like,
the pay phone that was at the gas station at the corner to call your boyfriend.
it's
You know,
exactly the same thing. It's
yes,
exactly the same thing.
totally remember
It's
that.
like a quantum. Who would have thought you'd be walking around with a smartphone? Or even think of the first cell phone that was out there, right? Like, they
Right.
were huge.
iPhones broke the mold. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it changed our whole way of thinking.
Right. So this is where I want you guys to think of, like, your healing in relationships. Like, we want to take this to the quantum level because enough suffering, enough. And those of you who have decided to actually address the things in your relationships, just understand that the unpacking is going to keep happening because we are going through massive transformation these days.
On a planetary level, and many people, and I know I don't like sounding too mystical because I'm really not a super mystical person,
Right.
but they're finding that beliefs and ideas and traumas that were passed down generation to generation, now is the time that people are finding that they're working on those intergenerational patterns. So it's not like, oh, I'm going back. And no, they're beliefs and emotions that, like Holocaust survivors, have passed down genetic anomalies to their children that were caused by the Holocaust.
Well, and I know the work that I've done. I always say that it's super important for me to be as authentic as possible. I, for whatever reason, have been given the gift to, I don't really care who I tell my story to because I'm just an open book. And what I've learned through the years by me being an open book, it actually allows other people the space for healing.
Yes.
So like when I started to unpack the fact that, so that I was sexually abused by a Catholic priest when I was 4 or 5 years old. He was a friend of the family and he got me in my parents' house and at a party. And
at a party? Where were you cornered?
It was in another room of the house. And it was, thank God it was not a recurring thing, but it was buried so far in my mind that I had to go through hypnotherapy to actually pull it out.
Yeah. You know? Do you want to know the science behind that?
Yeah, I would love. Let's share that with people.
Okay, so the science behind why it takes so long for some memories to surface is because when we're in a place of fight or flight, when we're triggered, like you were, being cornered by your family friend, you couldn't do anything. You had to try to survive. It's not like you could scream or fight. I mean, they were bigger, you were smaller, they were male, you were female. They were in a position of authority in a family. Who are they going to believe? They're not going to believe you. They're going to believe this guy, no matter what's said. I mean, you were really...
Especially because he was a priest.
Yes.
And he was like the trusted one.
Right. Exactly.
Didn't talk about how he was sticking his fingers in wrong places. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And everyone will believe him because they want to believe him. They don't want to believe that something happened. So you are in this overwhelmed, traumatized place as a child, unable to process through anything of it and unable to do anything about it. So what happens is your body is filled with stress hormones. Mm-hmm. And these stress hormones, if you can't pee them out or sweat them out or cry them out or digest them out in some way, that's why people get a lot of gas and things when they start to heal. So can we talk
about that? So you have no idea what kind of weaving you're doing here, but let's show this to people. So what happened with me, I didn't pee it out per se. Mm-hmm. So by the time I was 8 years old, because I started then wetting the bed all the time. My mom couldn't figure it out. I was not in the middle of the day.
Yep.
And then when I was 8 years old, I actually had surgery to clear out the tubes going from my kidneys to my bladder because there was all this bacteria. Because emotionally, when you don't process what is happening to you, it gets stuck and it crystallizes in your body. Mm-hmm. And then as it crystallized in my body, then it led to having a surgery. This is why we have to feel them to heal them. We have to feel those emotions. Yes. And I remember when I was at the end of my marriage, one of my coaches kept saying to me, well, you're starting to put to a point of rage. And I had tipped over and I was angry. But underneath rage and anger is sadness. And so I kept walking around the house going, why am I sad? Why am I sad? Why am I sad? And I was able to then start to tap into the emotions that had been layering for years since this priest sexually molested me.
Yes.
Then I turned around and said, I realized I was sad because I was in a marriage that did not serve who I was at that moment in my life.
And repeated the same type of feelings and abuse that you'd had then. It was just another layer onto it.
Correct. So listen to this. So here's another weave that you did.
Uh-huh.
So before we went live, I was talking about the butterflies behind Rita on her wall. Here I was in a coaching session with a soul coach the other day, because I'm really close to really embodying fully what my soul is here to do and do it in a big way. And I can tell that because I got lots of negativity coming at me, because lower vibrations work through wounded people to bring down bright lights. And I'm like, I must be a really freaking big bright light because I got the shit coming at me like nobody's business right now. Right?
Right.
And this soul coach told me, tell me about the first Halloween costume that you had. And she goes, because our soul codes are hidden in our first Halloween costume. And I was
way, that's so cool.
So the only one I could remember was...
That makes sense, though. I mean, it makes sense. Metaphorically, you're expressing what's going on within yourself by choosing your Halloween costume. Got it.
I was a butterfly.
Oh.
I made, and lately I've been like, what is up with all these butterflies? Like all these butterflies keep coming. She goes, have you noticed all the butterflies around you in nature? And I was like, how do you know that? I don't talk about anybody about the butterflies that are around me in nature. And here there was my first Halloween costume. And do you know what? She goes, what was your second Halloween costume? I couldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
It was before the next Halloween that I was sexually molested from the priest.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look now back at my journey, and then I look at the correlations between relationships I've had in the past and the priest, charming. Everybody loves him, but behind closed doors, doing bad shit. And there was parallels. There were parallels that are going on. And I'm really, really smart. I had no idea this operating system in my subconscious mind was doing those things.
Right.
I got married because I was married for the rest of my life.
Yes.
You know, had 4 babies. And this past weekend, I got the Monday, and this is why I want to unpack this for people.
Yeah.
Because I chose to get divorced because I didn't want this, I will call it abuse, to go to the next level, to go to the next generation. I was stopping that. I had 2 of my children tell me things that I was not okay with. And in my marriage, when I was at work, and I started to unfold and unpack that with my husband. And we just decided that we were on 2 different wavelengths, 2 different pages, and we had 2 different opinions. And that was the beginning of it all unpacking. And on Monday, when I went to meet the teacher day with to meet my son and his dad, I found out that my son was sexually molested by a girl who's an older child over the weekend. And I'm like, it's been interesting. And Rita, you know this, you worked with me a lot because that put my nervous system through the roof.
Yes.
Because of my experience.
Yes.
And then how that's going to wire into my son. And one of the things that you told me that was so pertinent was that, no. Yours wired as a trauma and you spent years unpacking your trauma. We're going to use this with your son as a growth experience. That the coping that is going to be taught from all this, so that it can unpack in a healthy way in his life and not an unhealthy way.
And you're going to heal yourself in this process. I want you to know that, because you're going to be giving, you're going to be giving him all of the love and the care and the compassion that you needed when you went through that experience.
Right.
And you will feel it because you're feeling it for him. So you will reap all the benefits of of that love, both of you. And it will be so beautiful.
Well, and what I'm also watching happening is that my exact intent was to stop this cycle of mental, emotional, physical, everything that has, and I'm clear that my soul came in here to change these patterns on both sides of my family. From a mental illness side on my mom's side and sexual abuse on my dad's side.
Yep.
Because I wasn't the only one hit from this Catholic priest in my family.
Nope.
And that spiraled to multiple people.
So multiple people in your family were
affected by the same priest.
Yeah. And it's interesting. And the parallel for me is, so my cousin passed away from breast cancer, and she was early 50s, and she had gotten it and didn't tell anybody. She just kept trying to treat it herself, like with Manuka honey. It was an open sore, and it got really bad, and she was in hospice. And when she got in hospice, I went and visited her and finally started to get to know her. And that's when I found out that every female on my father's side of my generation had some sort of sexual trauma, all of my female cousins.
Yeah.
And so you start saying to yourself, wait a second, this means that something was passed down generation to generation that made us all vulnerable to be sexually victimized.
Right.
So it wasn't that I was broken or, you know, I deserved it. This was a pattern of belief that set us up.
That's the key. It's a pattern of belief. So many people think that it's your DNA, and it is not your DNA. Just read the book, The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he talks about that 97% of how our physical body creates the diseases it has comes from our experiences, which means it's our behavioral stuff, our limiting beliefs, not our DNA.
So every time that you get stressed out, you put that bookmark in your head, like with the priest, it creates a wall. It adds to the wall between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And so the quantum, working with things on a quantum level, it really isn't that mystical. When you work with things on a quantum level, what you're doing is you're working on it from different directions. From multiple directions means that you're working on all the different parts and pieces. And so when you work with your nervous system, when you work with your diet, when you work with, you know, all sorts of stuff, that wall gets like veils. That's why in personal growth and mystical terms, they talk about the veils come down. You know, when those veils, the stress chemicals between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind keep getting released, and the veil and the wall gets thinner, you're able to access and integrate the pieces of your subconscious you had sort of cut off, like you'd cut off your arm, and reclaim that energy and use it to be whatever you want to be. You know, now you're not wasting it.
And I see these patterns with clients all the time. One of my mentors, he had huge problems with his kidney stones. And then a few years later, one of his brothers has kidney cancer. And so I kept saying to my mentor, your mother died when you were 4 years old. And I go, what are you not feeling from your mom dying? Because I'm trying to get him to feel his feelings. I'm like, feel your feelings, feel your feelings. And so
people don't know what that means, though. I mean, when you say my feelings were so deeply buried that I would never allow myself. I mean, we don't even know what that I didn't even know what authenticity looked like for 40 years.
Yeah. And you know what, I tell you, you know, if it wasn't for this one coach in my life that I met after I had a near-death experience having my last child, he just helped me recognize that I just needed to feel whatever I didn't feel.
Yeah.
And so like, I think a way to do it is like, if you have music that provokes you, if you have, music is a big one for me because I ignored my feelings. Julie could muscle up. I'm the fighting Irish.
Oh,
I can fight through and I can muscle through, and I am super strong lady, you know?
Nothing will bother me. I'm zen.
Yeah, like I'm tough as bones, but then your body starts to break down because you're not feeling the feelings. And so like, it was interesting, you know, after my divorce, like I'd go to family parties, people be like, how are you? And I'm like, blah!
Right. You were finally
just
safe
start sobbing.
enough.
They're like, what do we do? Who is she? Like, why is she crying? Julie's usually the rock. What do we do? Like, and they're like, Julie's like really losing it.
You were finally safe enough. See, this is what happened is you were finally safe enough. You were out of the priest experience that you were having with your husband, and you were finally on your own feet. They were over there, and you could finally feel them. If you don't feel safe, and the key is to create that safety inside of yourself and in the world around you. Only after that can you process.
Well, and here's what's interesting. So as I unpacked my abuse from the priest, then I had a sibling come out and talk about theirs a year later. Just recently, I had a nephew post on Facebook that he was sexually molested by a 6th grade teacher.
Right.
And so I'm sitting here going, when you are doing your work, because if you're in a relationship that has unhealthy behaviors, mentally, emotionally, typically one of the things that my brother taught me in his therapy that he had after he was unpacking his was that it's typically not on one side of your family. So if you're in a relationship where things are off, it's probably because they've got it on their side of the family too.
Yes.
Because again, going back to limiting beliefs, and we've unpacked it layer. And I want people to hear this loud and clear. It doesn't make any of you bad people.
Oh.
Whether it's your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah.
We're not bad people. We're all just in our conditioning. We
Yes.
are all just in our place of conditioning. And it's like super healing. Like me and my ex are still trying to find our way. And I'm like sitting there going, well, this is a hell of a way to unpack it to us, universe, that are seeing this experience like, holy shit balls.
Right. It makes you want to speed up your own healing so that you can avoid stuff. Because you either, now, what is it you always say? You either...
You work things out or you act it out. And you do it through your money or your health.
Yes. Or your relationships.
Or your relationships. Yep. All three of those. That's where it comes out at. And so mine shows up in relationships. Right. And I've teeter-tottered on the health standpoint too. You know, and me too. As you unpack, just know on a cellular level, it's okay that you like think about it collectively with this whole virus going on. You know what? Here, my guess, and I'm going to say it here, is that as we go through this election this fall, I have a feeling right around the election is when we're going to have this outbreak of coronavirus. Why? Because the election is creating all this division and divide. And what's the one thing that will unite us and bring us all back to oneness is everybody affected health-wise. Right. And I'm like sitting there going, God, there's a mastery in this.
there really is. And when we are in our stress pattern, what happens is we are mentally, emotionally, physically contracted. We're inside and we're not able to feel the truth. Right. And the truth is we are measurably connected by wavelengths that are measurable between me and you. And it doesn't matter the distance. Someone can be on the other side of the planet.
And the human heart is the biggest magnet.
Yes.
And they've proven that. If you want to see anything, it's on heartmath.org.
Yep.
You know, they've done all the research, all the scientists, that the magnetic force of our hearts goes over 8 miles.
Yes.
But the magnetic force of our heads goes for 2 feet.
Well, it was only 8 miles because that's as far as what the equipment could measure it.
They know it goes farther.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to heal our hearts. Connected.
Yeah.
We are physically connected to everyone and everything. But when we forget that because we're in our stress pattern, and most people are 90% of the time, most of their life, when we're in our stress pattern, we forget and we can't remember or see or feel how interconnected we are.
Right.
So like the more I love you, Julie, the more love there is in the whole field.
Right. And that's where as much as we're having a rough road post-divorce, I keep telling my children, more love and compassion. Yes. More love and compassion.
Yes.
I have no idea how we fully get to the other side of this, but I do know that I keep running into people that keep telling me stories how it was really toxic right at the first of the divorce, but then they're like best friends 15 years later.
Right.
They found the space. And that's the vision. That's
because they loved each other from the beginning.
It says dream. And that's my dream. I talk about how, I asked my daughter, I said, what do you want for your birthday, sweetheart? She goes, the only thing I want for my birthday is my mom and dad sitting on both sides of me and singing happy birthday to me.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. So
that's her dream. Great. We made the dream come true and it helped us all unpack the next layer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our
job
here
here
is to be vulnerable, made everybody feel awkward, but
good.
We were able to process through our shit.
Yes, exactly. And that's the key. You have to find people that are safe enough that can hold the space for you. What we tend to do is we keep recreating those relationships because we're trying to figure it out. We're instinctively trying to process through this stuff. So we'll instinctively want to and be a little obsessed and fall in love with someone who can help us do that. And once you start processing through it, you become the person that is centered, that is confident, that can hold their own. And when you do that, then everybody else around you starts to change, because now they finally have a role model. We've all been in the same boat. We all got screwed over in how to be being raised as children in a variety of ways. It was just the culture. And now we have to take the stand and say, how do I heal this as fast as possible so that I can help the people that I love, even if they're toxic? You don't have to be in a close relationship with them, but they're always going to be there. How can I raise the vibration of my life?
Right. Well, and let's talk about that. So I have 11 brothers and sisters. And I would say, we all love each other, but you get along with some more than you get along with others. And it's been really interesting. I'm always the one in the family of, I push the envelope for people, I push the envelope for my own life. Like, I like to keep like improving and getting well. And sometimes there's a rub, like you said, there could be toxicity there, and it doesn't matter. But here's what's interesting. I watch the snowball roll downhill. So like, I'll influence one or two of the other ones, and then they influence a couple more, and then they influence and like, it shifts the whole group. And it's really, really
cumulative.
Interesting. Right. And I know this
it's herd immunity for love.
I love that. Well, and I've even found in the relationships in the family, there are some people in our family that are still in complete denial that this priest did this.
Right.
And this is a priest that spent 20 years up in jail because he got caught with altar boys. And so as I'm watching it all unpack, it's like, no. See, the universe right now and everything that's going on,
it's
we
unfolding.
Can't deny and repress anymore. We can't pull a Joe Paterno and hide, all the stuff that happened at Penn State years ago. That is not the energy we're in. So anyone who is trying to still deny what's going on in relationships today, just know the longer you wait to unpack this, the worse it's going to get.
The longer you wait to get help, to get support, to find good programs. And as you said, a lot of people went to therapy, but the problem with therapy is it only works on one small part and piece. And so of course it takes forever. And a lot of women, when they work with me, they not only coach with me, but they also have a therapist, because the therapist works on what the therapist works on. And I work on, how do we change your nervous system? How do we get you the support that you need, the resources that we need? How do we give you confidence and self-esteem to make these changes? So as many people you have on your team, like you've got soul coaches, and I've got spiritual mentors, and, I've got like 6 or 7 people who help me deal with my bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of it controlling my life.
I'm the only one.
Oh yeah. I'm so tired. I'm sitting there, I'm 48 years old saying, why the hell am I still dealing with this stuff? I have better things to do with my life. I have worlds to change. Why am I still
Oh God, you just spoke my language, sister.
Yeah. Why am I struggling with authenticity, and be, oh no, they're mad. Why am I still screwing around with that stuff? But because every time it comes up, it's another layer of it and another layer of it. And you start doing it not just for you. And this is kind of where I'm at now. You stop doing it just for you, because you can handle your own stuff now.
Right.
Now you're doing it for the people that you love, for the planet, to heal the lineage so that it doesn't move forward.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Because
of course.
I want everybody to think, we were talking about hearts earlier and how we're all interconnected. I'm real big at helping people get visuals, kind of like the telephone, right?
Okay, yeah.
Think of it like an energy grid. If you're flying into town at night into Chicago, all you see, it looks like a huge tic-tac-toe thing that just expanded. And that's an energy grid, right? When part of the energy grid is not as bright as another part, this goes back to that we are all one and we all affect each other and we're all interconnected. That we can only go so far with the weakest link being the dimmest light.
Yes.
Right. So I have learned by me speaking out and me doing my work, despite the fact that I have a lot of people screaming at me. Yeah. You really shouldn't talk about those things. Going, yeah, no, I think we really kind of
No, we really need to talk about it. And we're the only ones courageous enough to do it.
Right. I I always say that I was given this gift to gab for a reason. It's like, well, let's just use this little mouth on a pretty face and get it going, you know?
You know, and I found that out. Yeah, you know, mine was, I would talk to people and their eyes would glaze over. And I said, I put people into a trance state. How can I use this to help people heal? You know, most people would be like, oh my God, they're bored with me. They checked out. I'm like, no, I get people into an open mind, and I open the field, and now we can create change.
And you're
How do we want to use
connected.
this? You're connected.
Right. And so it's time for people to wake up into their greatness. And by you unpacking your stuff, you're this again, one of my coaches said to me, the day I finally got divorced and it all broke through, he goes, and I'm telling you, I was under absolute assassination. Yeah. I spent $600,000 in 11 months. I was under complete assassination.
Oh my God.
And from forensic auditors, attorney teams hired for my children, like off the charts. And wow. The day I got divorced, he said to me, Jewel, you just raised the grid because you got through a really deep, dark pattern of yours.
Yes.
And now you have made it possible for all these other people to do the same thing.
Yes. Yes. And you're the trailblazer.
Energy grid piece. It's not necessarily that you're verbally talking to those people, but you're shifting the connection amongst humanity.
Yes.
And that is what is key.
Yes. Yes. I do these live streams and podcasts. You know, it's like when I was a kid, I used to, my first degree was a kindergarten teacher. So I got a BA in elementary education. Teaching runs in my family. And all I ever wanted to do was teach kindergarten because I wanted to teach people how to get along. And I needed to know, I just needed to trust. I would never see these 5-year-olds probably again in my life. They would turn into adults. They do great things with their lives. Who knew who they'd turn into? But I had to trust that the effect that I was having now, when they were 5 and locking themselves in the bathroom, and I was, you know, helping them sort through their day, that was having an important positive impact on the whole. And you just have to trust in it that what you're bringing to the whole is raising everybody up. You have to do it because some people are incapable of doing it, and you're capable of doing it, which means that you're the one.
Exactly. Well, and that's where I decided, it was funny. And we talk about relationships, that for a long, long time, I tried to make myself small to make other people feel comfortable.
Yeah. And
then I finally just got to a point where it was just like, and this was after my divorce, where I was just like, I can't really be small anymore because I'm not meant to be small.
You're not
meant to be the least common denominator. Right. I need to just be the big self that I am and be that out in the world. And then here's what happens when you align with your heart and soul.
Yes.
And you be who you are, and you stop making yourself what society wants you to be.
Right. You stop making yourself
make them feel comfortable.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden it comes out. And I'm going to say this at the risk of pissing a lot of people off, but
good.
That's Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really care for his antics and stuff like that, but that man does exactly what he's wired to do.
He's a healer, and he's a healer.
He doesn't care.
Right. Which means that his job on this planet is to piss everybody off and to create change. You know, you've heard about all those gurus on the mountains, and, you know, people will go and visit the gurus, and the gurus will give them like some impossible job, and they'll swear at them, and they'll call them a dog, and, you know, make them lick their boots. And, you know, these are healers.
Yeah.
You know, I have chosen the toughest people in my life because I am so tough that I need someone who can break open my shell, who can break me open like a seed. And so I've chosen difficult, painful experiences, because for me, I was so capable and so competent at managing myself while peeing myself at the same time, or puking as soon as I, you know, left the room, or doing whatever I did, you know, to try to feel better.
Right.
I could control it. I could control it. And,
Well,
I needed somebody mean.
Yeah. I always say that I needed somebody to hit me between the eyeballs.
Yep.
You know, and my boyfriend pointed out to me, he goes, Jewel, I don't know why you're surprised that this all happened with your son. You don't do anything small. Everything's got to be big. He goes, so you're supposed to make big change. And even my mentor sent me a message last night going, because I'm a little bit under the assassination piece again. And not a little bit, I absolutely am. Yeah. And he goes, yep, it's just the training ground for what you're supposed to be in the world. So
absolutely, yes.
Boot camp.
Yes, this is exactly what it is.
It's boot camp. So
this
now
is
as all the
PhD
messages are coming in and flying around, I'm like, boot camp.
Yep.
And
this
keep it in perspective. I had a brother call me, goes, how you doing? I go, I'm good. He goes, what kind of work are you doing on yourself? Because if I was told my kid was molested this week, while not on your watch, I'd be losing my shit.
Right, but you don't want to lose your shit anymore. You're tired of losing your shit. You're tired of being dysregulated.
Yeah. Can you tell people about that, about being dysregulated? Because you've taught me a lot about my nervous system and being unregulated. Because before you and I did a whole session before I had to go into court the other day to process everything that was sitting on my nervous system out so that I could just be present and be regulated in that court session. Right. Can you share that with people of how to regulate their nervous system?
Yeah, how that works? Sure. So when we have an experience that's considered a trauma, and trauma is anything that is, it happens unexpectedly, we feel helpless to do anything about it, and we don't have an opportunity to process through it. And that happens with a lot of kids. It happened with a lot of kids in my generation and the generations before. What happens is the stress chemicals are kind of locked into your body, and that's why they end up crystallizing and creating problems in different organs, because it's the stress chemicals of emotion. People used to think emotions were just like airy-fairy, like you made them up, but emotions are physical chemicals your body releases. And if they don't get processed through your system, then they start to create congestion, so poor circulation, and then things get stagnant. It can't heal itself. Your immune system gets compromised, all of it. So your nervous system is the gatekeeper that decides whether something is scary and you need to go into fight or flight, or whether something is not scary. And it doesn't really think for itself. It's more like reactionary. So you cannot stop your nervous system from reacting to something, which means that you have to wire the software. You have to rewire the things, and you have to start getting rid of the physical trauma triggers in your brain that are created by those stress chemicals.
Could we bring this into a real life example? So what happened to me when I got on my emergency court thing the other day about my son, the judge immediately put me into a breakout room. He goes, if you don't mind, we're going to be talking off the record, which is the attorneys. So me and my ex-husband wound up in breakout rooms. So we're sitting on Zoom by ourselves, right? So it brings me back to our divorce process, where they did that for about an hour and 15 minutes in the courtroom, where me and my ex-husband were the only two sitting in the courtroom the whole time.
Great.
And so I watched my nervous system on the Zoom call the other day. It got hijacked. Like I couldn't stop it to save my life. I had all of my limbs shaking like a leaf because we were in there for 33 minutes. And I'm sitting here going, they're deciding about the health and wellness of my son after being molested, and I'm not even present, and that just pisses me off.
So you were healing in those 33 minutes when your body was shaking.
Okay, explain that to people.
Yes. Yes.
Because
all right.
I literally was sitting there like this, and I was doing every tool.
Yeah. And you couldn't, like, because it was so big. And because you were doing that, that's why you were shaking. So let's say.
So I did it to myself.
Yeah. So let's say 20 years ago, you had a wall between your conscious and your subconscious mind. Your nervous system was, and you could take any emotion and shove it down and put it into your uterus or your kidneys or your knee or whatever. And the only way to feel an emotion is to stay present with it. Mm-hmm. But if you have too much of a wall between between your subconscious and your conscious, you can't be present to it. Okay. So when we do these tools that take us out of, now dysregulation is when your brain is firing like popcorn. It's not working in sync. It's you're dumber. You are hijacked. You're emotionally hijacked.
Yeah.
You cannot think clearly. You're obsessive. You're paranoid. All of it. And that's you being dysregulated. Your subconscious taking control. When you choose to do something that regulates your nervous system, like the TAT points that we do, or the havening that we do, or anything, it tells the body, it takes a railroad track around it, and it takes the wall down. So, you know, Gorbachev, please take this wall down. I mean, and so when you do this, it takes down the wall between East and West Germany, which is big and thick and scary and mean. It tells it to, and suddenly everything that has ever been associated with the moment that you're in is allowed to finally be expressed. So when you do those tools, and I actually had hoped you would realize that this would happen, you know, that this happens. When you do these tools, that's why I wanted you to do them before the call, is what happens is you will cry, you will shake, you will, because finally the stress chemicals are allowed to be released.
And here I was in the session thinking if I was doing those things that would actually cause me to stop shaking so I could be present. And actually it was unpacking more.
It was unpacking more so you could be present. It was a beautiful healing moment.
Thank God they left me in there for 33 minutes.
Yes.
Because
Thank
I was
God,
actually,
you were a wreck.
So let me tell you. So by the time I got to the end of the 33 minutes, I actually was back to my calm self. It was like this crescendo.
Yes.
Oh,
Because you did those tools. Yes, and because, you know, when a gazelle runs away from a lion and is saved by the herd, and, you know, the lion gets tired or bored or whatever, the gazelle stops and it shakes because it's got so much adrenaline rushing through its body. So you've got this priest standing over you, touching you in places he's not supposed to touch you. And you are so effing scared that you have to bury it as deeply as you possibly can, when what you should have been doing is screaming, crying, running, hitting him in the face.
Just took it all in.
You took it all in. And you should have right after the fact been able to go to your parents and say, oh my God, this happened to me. I don't know what to do. And they should have been able to be like, hey, you know what? Calm down. We love you. It's okay. Here's another way to look at it. And you would have cried and you would have shaken.
I've been watching. All of my children are super, super clingy right now.
Yeah.
And
makes them feel safe.
Yeah. And literally, like, we had family bed night last night. I made sure that their needs were all met. I gave them all oil massages on their body to calm their nervous systems down, you know. And
you're a good parent. Good job.
And I'm in a place where I still have yet to be told all the details of exactly what happened. I don't even know exactly what day that it happened on. So, and the reason I share that is that stuff can go into my brain and just like hijack the hell out of me. And I'm just sitting here going, no, I'm not gonna let that hijack. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose a different response system, because I just want to use it as a growth moment and not create more trauma moments.
Yeah. Not layer on the fact that once again, you were helpless and out of control, because the truth is you're not helpless. And the truth is you're not out of control. Right. And if you follow that path, that strong neural connection that says, I'm helpless, there's nothing I can do, my son is helpless, my family is helpless, we're traumatized. The universe doesn't care. It's like, well, if that's the direction you want to go, have at it. You know, but when you work with somebody like me, or when they work with somebody like you, and we say, wait, let's pause for a second. You have a different choice here. And it's not a mental choice. It's not like, but I feel like I hate him, but I'm telling myself everything is fine. You know, no, the different choice is where you finally give yourself yourself the things that you needed to get when you were in that trauma.
Right.
Trauma is going to happen. It's going to happen.
Right.
And
it's
so
life. It's like you said, use this as a growth moment, not something that keeps packing throughout their lives.
Yeah, because otherwise your kids will have problems for the rest of their lives. But the fact that all of this came out and you were able to love them through the experience that you weren't loved through will heal you, will heal them, and will stop the family pattern. Because this stuff happens. You're always going to be around people who are creepy, you know, and they know who they can get away with it, you know, and who they can't. That priest knew to target your family because he knew that your parents weren't as involved or engaged.
He targeted my family? Because my grandfather had died at age 39 and my grandmother was 2 months pregnant with baby number 6.
Wow.
He became a priest at St. Leo's Parish right before my grandfather died.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so predators recognize those to be victimized. I mean, it's just, they can see it. It's actually an aura around people. Right. You know, they know who to target. Predators know who to target, and predators are just predators. It's up to us to be like, you know what? You're not going to prey on me. You're not going to prey on anybody else. You know, I understand you're a predator. We're going to help you get what you need, but I'm not going to let you devastate like an invasive species. And that's what it's become now in this country is, you know, narcissism is like an invasive species, and we need to get us back to a holistic, balanced ecosystem.
Yep. And it's coming back there, but in each of us individually doing our work in our relationships is a huge part.
Ripple effect.
Huge part. And I'll tell you, it hasn't necessarily always been easy. Like
it's hard.
I'm sitting here going, like, I'm even unpacking through this experience of everything I didn't process through of my divorce process.
Yes.
Because it's the same teams of attorneys. It's the same emails popping in my inbox. It's the same, and I'm sitting here going, God, it's almost 2 years late, 3 years.
Why am I not done with this? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm done emotionally. I'm done financially writing the checks for it. It's like, when do you stop just creating the insanity? It's like someone has to break the cycle.
And once you break the cycle, it's
breaking in my world for sure.
Yeah. And
that's why there's so much resistance.
Yeah. And it's, we think, okay, we'll get rid of the narcissist. We'll do something different. We broke the cycle. We got out, blah, blah, blah. I beat it. I'm a survivor.
Comes into your life.
Yes. Because it was never about the narcissist. It was always about the fact that you didn't know how to stand up for yourself because you felt so overwhelmed every time that you needed to, you know, your system made you think that you were that little girl again. And kids, the feelings are huge. Trauma is huge.
Right.
You know, and so you kept going back with that and thinking, I'm helpless. And you never recognized that you're an adult now and that you're not helpless and you can do things about it, like, you know, get divorced or stand up, you know, or call the attorneys and be like, hey, this happened. What do we do next? You know, in the past, you just threw money at it. That's what you told me. You know, in the past, you just threw money at it and let's not look at it, thinking that maybe things would get better. Understandable. That's human nature, but it didn't, because it was never about them. It was about you learning to say enough.
Yes. Agreed.
And teaching your kids how to say enough.
And the whole thing has been a huge teaching. And one of the other things I've learned along the way is to give gratitude for every role that every person has played to get me to this place.
Yeah, we're in an ecosystem.
It's all preparation for the work I'm meant to do in the world.
Yes, we are all part of a much bigger community and story that's going on. And the highest leverage thing that we can do for ourselves, for the people we love, and for the planet as a total is to keep working on not just healing, because you're getting to the point where you need to be, where you're not healing anymore. Now you are channeling your energy into creation.
Correct.
Before, you were powering through to create things like, you know, like your arms and legs were tied behind your back. But when you work on this diligently, as fast as you can, that's why you chose such crazy people. you know, because it's like, let's work on this fast. Let's not screw around. I got things to do. Give me the toughest I can handle, you know, and when that happens, things move quickly in a positive direction. When you get into alignment, all sorts of things start to happen positively, because now you are not dysregulated, whereas 90% of the population is.
Well, and when
you're smarter and healthier.
Right. When you are regulated, you know, then you have the space, the emotional space and mental space to accept. I have another little rock here that I like as a reminder that says acceptance on it. You know, like, because we need to accept what rises in our life, because life is all about learning lessons. And and it's all about evolution, and it's all about getting to the next place. And the more you can regulate your nervous system to create the space to be able to accept and then become the observer and try to stay in a state of neutrality of what is coming up in your life. I mean, it was super interesting to me on a physiological level. So what happens? I go to meet the teacher day, and my son meets his teacher. Me, my son, and my ex-husband were sitting there. Ex-husband asks to talk to me afterwards, tells me that my kid was sexually molested over the weekend. And then he wouldn't let me take my son with me. He said his parenting time, puts the kid in the car and drives away. And I'm like in pieces. Physiologically, what happens to me afterwards, I get in the car, I call the attorneys going, I don't want this girlfriend's daughter near my kid. But physiologically, what happened to me is all of a sudden I started having a nosebleed. Like, I'm in the car, my nose is bleeding. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm nose bleeding. And physiologically, what has always happened to me in the past is my body would physiologically contract.
Yes.
And everything would close up. Yes. I'd get headaches. I'd be stressed to the gills. I carry it all on my shoulders. And then I'd find because the cortisol is just shooting through the system, right?
And you're protecting your heart because it hurts.
Right. But there was a different event that occurred here, which I am fascinated by, and it started with the bloody nose. Then what also happens when I'm stressed out, not to have TMI to everybody, but again, I'm going to speak the truth. I start getting my period 10 days early.
Yes.
What has always happened in my past when I had stressful events like this is it didn't come or it was late.
Yes.
So it was the physical body confirmation that some part of me was letting go of control here and accepting what was happening in the present moment. And my physical body was actually processing it through in the moment.
Yes.
And that just blows my mind on so many levels.
Yes.
Because I'm like, oh, I turned the corner.
Yes.
Because this is probably the worst nightmare of any human being out there, to know that your kid was sexually molested.
Yes, especially if it's a family history.
Yeah. And then to watch my physical body do the opposite of that this week has been fascinating to me.
Yes, so, it's a testament to the work that you've been doing in, taking control of yourself again.
And I think it's important. What I want people to hear out of all of this is that look for those little signs of the dream. This is my other little rock, acceptance and dream. Oops, at the side. I keep holding the dream of what I want to create. So I'm breaking patterns in my family of sexual abuse on my dad's side and mental abuse on my mom's side. And I know those are the patterns that I am breaking in my limiting belief system in my family hierarchy. And sometimes you need those little confirmations, like me getting my period of all things. It's like, I am letting go. I am accepting. I am then dealing with it and feeling it in the present moment. And I'm not burying it. I didn't go drink a bunch of alcohol. I didn't go eat a bunch of food. I actually chose to fast a lot during this
Yes.
process,
Good.
so that I could be raw and be in the emotions. And I was actually, all things funny, my boyfriend and I were starting a 72-hour fast, and we started Monday morning. And after I got all this news, I was like, I'm eating my mentor at Uncle Julio's. I'm eating one meal today. I was like, I got to go to a happy place. And I was good. I ate very good when I was in that restaurant, but I did a 16-hour fast, and then I did an 18-hour fast the next day.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah, because we have to watch what distractions we put in our way to not address the things going on in our relationships, to not address. I think that's the hardest part when people were sheltering at home, was the fact that how many distractions could you have? You couldn't. You were sitting in your shit.
Right. Well, here's the interesting thing. I've had an eating disorder all my life, because when I get stressed, my body, my digestive system shuts down. And, and I used to worry about it, and I don't worry about it anymore, because what it does is it causes intermittent fasting. And when your body goes into an intermittent fasting phase, it tells itself to regenerate itself. So when you choose to fast or do intermittent fasting, your body switches into a different state. And in your body, in all of your organs, you have stem cells. Believe it or not, you have stem cells. And so every part of your body is constantly regenerating itself. And these stem cells are camouflaged by layers and layers of, reiterations of how the genes have changed. But underneath it is the seed. The seed is still there. And when you go into intermittent fasting, all of that stuff falls away. All the extraneous layers that were dysfunctional and maybe damaged or, not doing well. The stem cell comes out of that, and it starts working to repair your body. And it probably, if you haven't done any intermittent fasting ever, your body's never had that chance. You're supposed to do that. And times of stress, if you choose them correctly, are amazing for healing your body. And so my digestion has gotten better so much better. My sexuality, now I enjoy the hell out of that. Whereas before I was completely locked down. I couldn't eat. I had stomach troubles all the time. It's because all of that stress and those stress chemicals were being harbored there. And my body wasn't telling itself to fix itself. And when you intermittently fast, like you did, it says dun dun dun, and it comes in, and you come out better on the other side, because your body's now regenerated back to the original blueprint.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually called the guy who does my Awaken Your Health Relationships. I go, dude, I need your help. I'm at the hardest part of my life right now, and I don't want to fall off this boat. And he goes, yeah, just start a new day every day. I'm like, okay.
Really?
Well, I mean, he coached me through it. But
yeah.
But I just remember going, he's like, yeah, like when you're ready, just do a detox, and because you've got it all floating in your system. And
that's life, up and down and up and down and up and down.
And it's about self-love and self-care through all this process. You're not going to transition perfectly, whether you're transitioning in a current relationship or you're transitioning away from a relationship. You're not going to do it all perfect.
Yeah. You're waking up to the truth. And the truth is that you're connected and you're supported and you're loved in all things in this world. And that's really what healing is, or transformation, or paradigm shifting. It goes from the beliefs that I'm screwed, I'm helpless, there's nothing I can do, I'm victimized. And it opens you up to physically recognize that you are part of a larger system, and it's supporting you in processes you can't even understand because science hasn't caught up with it yet. So you are part of something bigger.
So how, Rita, that's a great segment. We're at an hour. It's amazing. Tell people how they can stay more connected with you. If you're in these relationships and you're in these situations where you want to shift, how do people get more support from you? Because you have lots of ways for people to do that.
Absolutely. Well, You know, if women want more support and they want to do it fast, you know, women are making changes. They're getting divorced. They're stepping on a new path in like less than 3 months. I mean, you and I working together, and within a month, you were like, "Holy shit, what the hell is going on?" So, I mean, and that happens with really everybody that I work with. So, they can find me at inspiremassage.com. It's soon going to be 𝑟itaHickmanCoaching.com. And they can also find me on Facebook. I do live streams Monday through Friday. Rita Aiken Hickman, or Narcissism Healers for Peace, or there's something else. If you look me up on Facebook, if you type in my name, I will pop up. Join whatever you can, friend me, whatever, and we'll start the conversation. And if people reach out, then we'll sit down, we'll have a free call. I'll be like, who are you? Where are you coming from? What do you need? Here's some tools. Let's meet again next week. Okay, do you want to work with me? That's how it goes.
Right. And everyone, you know, by all means, all the tools and Awaken series that I have, Awaken Your Relationships, will be here again next Thursday, 9 a.m. Central. And then my Awaken Your Health has shifted from 8 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central. We'll be doing that on Monday. I apologize for not being there this past Monday, but I had to tend to my family matters. And Awaken Your Spirit also will be Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Central.
Excellent.
And in a couple weeks, we're going to start Awaken Your Work Life. For those of you who are not being served and in passion and purpose in the work that you do in the world, we'll be starting those at Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central. So fabulous. Love you all. And I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Rita.
Thanks, Julie. Bye. Bye.